Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started. I already had some mate.
Oh.
Had this?
No.
Mate?
What is it? Is it like the...
Awesome. It's a drink from Argentina.
Okay. Is it like a coffee?
My wife showed it to me. Now I drink it more than her. It's like tea. So you have this little vase, and you put this loose leaf tea and sticks in there, and it's got a little metal straw, and it has a little screen on it that protects it from coming in.
It's amazing.
I guess it's like carcinogenic,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I guess if you drink it too much, it's bad for you, but in moderation, it's like better than green tea.
I love that.
So there you go. You should try it out.
I will. I'm a huge tea person. I normally don't drink coffee, so and it's like a ritual thing for me. So I make tea 5 times a day, and it's
I don't either.
I know. Today is an exception.
Yeah. By the way, thank you for offering the coffie.
Oh yes,
Mike
I had good intentions.
Yes, it's all about the intentions.
It's all about the thought behind it.
Mike really missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
He's like, you're out of the program. Mike, if you're listening, love you. So we're here with Sarah Svetlana, a badass painter and a fellow program artist. I think I want to just talk about it right off the top. Just get it out of the way. You've got a show coming up.
I do, on Saturday, on the 7th.
This Saturday, March 7th.
Correct.
2020, for anybody who is listening to this currently. And how long is it going for?
It's until the 25th. So
they're going until the 25th.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if people don't get to make the opening, they can schedule.
And I'll be
Mike.
working in the gallery, so it'll have more open. It'll be more open days for the gallery since I'll be there. So
nice.
Definitely stop by.
Yeah.
If you can't make it to the open.
That's cool that you're doing that. And Mike and I were hanging one of the shows for the competitions, and I saw you working in there. How difficult is that for you to be down there all the time?
Honestly, I never knew about this. I mean, I knew about the South Bay, but going to Hermosa or Manhattan Beach was a destination. We go there for a day trip.
Yeah, go to the beach.
It was never a thing where it's close. And then as soon as I found out about ShockBoxx, that was when I started going down there all the time. But I drive so much anyway that it's just another drive. But I really love it down there.
Well, it's LA too. So
yeah, of course. So anywhere is just.
If you're not
drive.
driving in LA,
right.
You're
and my daughter goes to school in the Valley, so
she goes to school around here, right?
Yeah, her dad lives out here, and when we were in Highland Park, the school district wasn't that great. The schools around us, so we just kind of left her here for now. So I drive 20 hours a week, and I'm just sitting in there. My car looks like a homeless person lives there because I have everything I need in there.
Nice.
And it just starts piling up. But
that's very practical, though.
Yeah, but then when I have if I go down to ShockBoxx, I'm there for a little bit, and it's not just going there and turning right back around. So and it's just so nice down there, and the ocean's
so
right
nice.
there, so it's I don't mind the drive.
When I drive down there, my blood pressure drops.
Absolutely.
It's so chill, and the community down there is
the
great.
Smell of the ocean, it's just so healing. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. Mike kind of embodies that area.
Yeah, he is Mr. Hermosa. Yeah, absolutely.
Unrattleable, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Although he did say he was that was maybe a little bit of a surface thing, but I don't believe it. I think he's always like that.
Yeah, he's pretty level-headed.
So Sarah's show is going to go till the 25th. And if you're for some reason listening to this in 2027, if we're still up, you can look up Sarah's work Where?
Artsy is the best place.
Nice.
It has all my stuff from ShockBoxx and from my other galleries.
Oh, cool.
So,
And he's going to have this show up,
yep, he'll
right?
have that up. Yeah, at
Okay.
Artsy.
So I got friends in high places. I saw a sneak peek of your show
Yes.
yesterday. Mike sent it to me.
Yeah, we hung up the whole thing yesterday. So
So it's ready to go. You're not making any more changes?
no, we're set to go. Like, he hangs things in like 30 seconds. And,
I know.
and I totally trust his like the curation part of it. And like
He's great.
yeah. So we're ahead of schedule, which is great. And I don't have to I got everything out of my studio. It's there. It's hung up, and
Yeah, no
don't have
big
to stress about it.
pressure. Well, the show looks fucking amazing.
Thank you.
Honestly, I was
you.
looking at it and I told Mike, I said, wow, this is a strong show.
Thank you.
So if you get a chance, check it out. The big piece on the right as you're walking, was that the piece you were working on
yeah,
when I
that's
came?
when you saw. Okay. Yeah, because I had to work on it there. It's so big that
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and a lot. My work really depends on like the geography, and like I kind of like to use the ground a lot when I paint. So it's almost like I'm like that piece was like very ShockBoxx. Like the energy out of that place is put onto that canvas. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's perfect. And they have the back box,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for not only hanging out, but if you want to bust out some big pieces.
it was. Yeah, I got paint all over the floor immediately
Nice.
because I was painting.
Which I'm sure Mike just left there, right?
He did.
Nice.
He's like, it's it's a studio, it's a gallery. You're supposed to have paint there, but
Right.
it was like because I was painting that giant piece. It's actually a drop cloth, and I thought it was a lot thicker than it was.
Yeah.
So when I painted, it was like it just leaked right through.
There was
It
like an impression of each painting
There
on
was
the back.
my footprints are all over the studio.
Oh,
the
that's
back.
awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So I love your work. What is there like I mean, when I looked at it, it looked like there was a cohesive theme to the
Yeah.
show. Was there anything you were going for the show, or were you just painting?
Well, the show itself, when I first started, like when I knew I was going to get the solo show, kind of like I wanted, everything is brand new. Everything I made was for the show.
Right.
And so I called it The Secret Garden, and it's also in Russian next to it, Секретный сад.
Yes.
And,
Because I'm fluent in Russian.
right. Which is why we have it in English as well. I kind
Us
of,
dummies.
it's kind of like the accumulation of everything I have been working towards to this point. And, I kind of like it's almost used every piece as like a journal entry.
Yes.
And it's like a diary, and there's like secrets upon secrets. There's layers upon those secrets. So like I will write things and then just paint over it, but I know it's there. And then one day when I'm dead and someone's x-raying my work, they'll see like
We'll see all the layers.
all the layers. But I kind of like I've been obsessed with doodling flowers, and I kind of I didn't want to do that for a long time because I was like, it's so childlike and not, it's not fine art if I'm just doing little doodles of flowers. But then I started incorporating that with like my structured shapes and then putting the flowers over it. And I kind of like, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go with this. And like, I just, it's like this entire show is just me basically saying I'm following my own rules and following my own instincts, and I don't give a shit. Like,
which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah, what it should be.
And that's how it reads too.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and it's kind of like this perfect mixture of adolescent joy and then just a rebellious spirit.
Exactly.
I love that. It's
and I
great.
think that's like that's exactly that sums it.
You can
right
use
up.
that if you want.
Thank you. I will make sure to put that in my statement. Yeah, I mean, like most my work is completely based on my adolescence and my I came here when I was 4 years old to the United States, and we went through
4 years old from
the Soviet Union.
Oh wow.
So when we came here, it was under refugee status for religious persecution.
Really?
Yeah. So we had to go. I was born in Belarus, but at the time it was still Soviet Union. So when I say Russian, like it's still like the old habit of just like everyone's Russian if you're from the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So when we were being let out, there was an entrance to Israel, but my parents were like, "We're going to America." So my parents were younger than I was. My mom was 29. My dad was 32.
Wow.
And they had no idea how we were going to get there, but we basically took an underground railroad
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So we went through Italy first. Well, we went through Moscow to Italy. And when we left the Soviet Union, they like ceremoniously ripped up our passports. They're like, you are not welcome back.
You are not coming back. Oh my God.
Yeah, so when we left.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's awful. So we went through, from Moscow, we went to Rome. And in Rome, we were in a refugee camp for about a week, and they gave us a week. They're like, after a week, you have to leave. And if that means living on the streets, then live on the streets.
You're like, well, we love it here.
Right.
But
So my dad went out and found a family to basically sponsor us. And
oh my God.
This family like let us live in their house for a few months.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, like 30 minutes outside of Rome in this little little town village called Merciato. And I turned 4 there. So
do you remember
I do.
of this?
I remember because we know there's like traumatic events that kind of like stay with you. So, and at the time it didn't feel traumatic because I was a baby basically, and my parents were taking care of me. So I didn't feel like totally unsafe, but it was just still like I was on this journey.
You can feel that.
Yeah,
like
you helplessness.
Feel tension or anxiety.
Absolutely. And I remember my mom crying because she didn't know like how she was going to feed us the next day. And I remember they pierced my sister's ears to put the gold earrings in her ears because like we couldn't like really take anything with us.
Wow.
Yeah. So from Rome, we went to Austria first. And in Austria, we stayed in a refugee camp, and it was an awful, awful place. It was run by like super anti-Semitic people. And it was like a dormitory style. And I just remember there was stray cats everywhere. Wow. And, but like, it was, I was just like along for the ride. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where we were going. And then from Austria, that's when we went to Italy. And then from Italy, that's when we, like a couple months later, because both my parents were college graduates and they were young. So I think like we were passed through a little bit faster just because they would be like, they would benefit the economy here. So they were like, okay, they can actually work. And so actually Jewish Family Services is who brought us here, and they helped us to get here. So my work kind of like, and since then it's always been, I've had a serious identity crisis. So
understandably.
Yeah. Because like when we were in Belarus in the Soviet Union, we weren't considered Belarusian or Russian. We were considered Jews.
Yeah.
So like even in my birth certificate under nationality it says Jew. So like even though my family's been there for like, 1,000 years. So we were never like considered Russian. And if you ask a person like, oh, is that person Russian? You're like, no, he's a Jew. Like, which is funny. And then when we came here,
that's crazy.
We were Russian. Because like that doesn't make sense to anyone else. Like, yeah, you came from that place, and that means you are Russian.
That means you're this.
So I've always had, and we went straight to Minnesota.
Of course.
Because why not? My uncle was there from the 70s. He came out first. So we kind of went where, where my family was. So in Minneapolis, there's a very small Russian Jewish community, but not, nothing like in LA. And so we had to assimilate really fast. And, I was born Svetlana, and my great grandmother's name was Sarah. So when we came here, my parents changed it to Sarah Svetlana. So I would, fit in, and because I didn't, no one could pronounce it, and I was a little kid, and they just wanted me to like be like everyone else. And they never really enforced us to speak Russian at home. Like my mom would, speak Russian back, to me, and I would speak English back to her. So it was like. So
are you fluent in Russian?
I am. I'm still fluent.
Nice.
My grandma never spoke English. Like she's still to this day, when I call her, like we're playing charades on the phone because I'll forget words, and my American accent is there for sure. So,
is that out of defiance, or she just doesn't know any
No,
English?
she just doesn't know. Because she came here already when she was like 60, so she never worked. Wow. So she just like stayed at home and took care of us.
Right.
So like she knows like some words, like not completely, but like fluently, no. So I still had to like have some Russian in me.
That completely makes sense if you're not working. Yeah. It's just funny. As a side note, this is completely unrelated aside from the language thing. Mags and I were at a gas station the other day, and I was filling up the air. And I found out later that it was free, but I paid like $4 for it. And I was like, wait a minute, they just charged me $4. So I went to talk to the attendant, and I'm like, so I just got charged $4 for this. It's supposed to be $1.50. And he just looked at me and he's like, speak Spanish. And I was like, okay. I'm just going to walk away from this one.
Like I'm going to take an L for this one.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to say anything in this political climate.
Right.
But wow, that's insane. So your memoir's coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, right.
You should write that shit.
I know. I have a dream that I would like to kind of make a documentary where I kind of retrace my steps back. And
oh my God.
Just like, and then also because it's, I'm kind of like the result of what a child refugee ends up being, with the trauma still kind of always ingrained. And, there's like everything that's happening right now in this climate, like it's very prevalent and it's very like.
Yeah, it's kind of bubbling up to the surface.
Yeah.
It's always been there, but yeah, it's pretty terrifying right now.
Yeah.
So obviously this feeds your art.
Yeah. And so like definitely like I have like my doodles and my childlike markings are definitely me as like a 4-year-old and me as kind of when you're going through a traumatic event, you kind of dissociate a little bit and you're in your own world and you're when you feel completely helpless and you don't have any control over your own life, you focus on, I always like, I can focus on cracks on the wall and like corners of, and like corners of like a dresser and like you kind of see the detail in there. And
oh yeah,
you kind of like, like you notice everything around you. And so I think that has been always like that kind of, that is my art, like where I try to translate that. And I kind of, it's almost like a footprint of like where I am at that time in my life. And, yeah, it's definitely like who I, like what I've been through is definitely my art now.
Yes.
And and like, I still continue to have my identity crisis, but it's definitely helped me process. And it's definitely, made me realize who I am in a better way. Yeah.
And would you say you've filed away some of these images throughout the years and they kind of come out?
Yeah, absolutely. Art? Like, I have a lot of polka dots in my art. And that's like, my grandma always wore polka dots. Like Russians love polka dots for some reason, like especially the Soviet Union era.
Yeah.
Like we had like pots and pans with polka dots on them. And so that comes out like these like.
I want pots and pans with polka dots.
Yeah. And there's like these orange polka dots. For some reason there was orange polka dots, but they definitely like those like markings come out and like my little floral doodles, like those come out and colors. Like I'm a big color person.
Yeah.
I see like, when I see like a pink, I know like how many different shades of different things are in there. And I can just like see different colors in like one shade. And it's like, it's just funny because like I'm such a depressed person in general. Like that's just part of who I am. Like I always say that I have living in the first world with third world emotional issues.
Yeah.
It's just part, and it's like I'm handle it. I'm okay, but it's still the colors definitely make me feel better, and it's like this light that
I completely understand. I mean, I don't completely understand. I think America is built up of a lot of these kinds of traumatic stories and immigration. Everybody who's here has been an immigrant at some point in time, or their relatives have. But I can also relate to art being a cathartic way to express certain things that are going on subconsciously. I've had my own things happen in my childhood. This is about you, obviously, but without that, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember my life really before I started painting, and it hasn't even been that long. But I don't know where it has definitely helped me tremendously.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when did you start painting?
Well, I mean, I've always painted. I've always been like, it's not like I never, and all of a sudden, just all of a sudden painting. Yeah. But like, I never took it seriously until about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I was laid off from a job. I tried. My mom passed away about 6 years ago. It'll be in March this month.
Oh, wow.
And her biggest dream for me was to get an office job with good benefits.
Right.
And, and
well, that's,
and like stability, like she was really like being like, it didn't even cross my mind to be an artist because like, I can't even imagine like what she would have said to that,
right.
She's like, that's a great hobby, like, yes, you're a very creative person, Sarah, but let's focus on the real job.
And they mean well.
Of course,
that.
yeah. And like she didn't,
But
and
it
I
can
know
be
like
stifling at the same time.
right. And I know that if she was alive today, she'd be super proud of me and
Right.
and
Of
there
course.
would be but after she passed away, I ended up getting a real big girl job at I was a copywriter at a cosmetics company, and it was awful. But because I was
You're like,
being
Mom, this is what you wanted.
yeah, and I was like, and I really tried, but I was driving
yeah.
like it was to Westlake Village, just 2 hours away, and I just I lost like a part of my soul. It was, and I for me, I didn't have any training in writing. I don't know how I got this job, but I did, and so like some days like I just couldn't write.
Yeah.
Which is not okay when you are the only copywriter for this, for this company. And I ended up getting laid off.
They're like, you got something, kid. I don't know what it is, but we need you.
Yeah. And I obviously I had my, I made my spec portfolio and I got hired off of that. So I had, that had something there, but it just was not, if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to do a good job.
That is very true.
Yeah. And they laid me off because so I can get unemployment, but really I got fired. Like they just and they were like, I'm like, though they were probably just getting rid of that position entirely, and they hired someone new a week later. So it was me.
Yeah.
It was not them.
Well, it was meant to be.
Yeah, and that was 2017.
Okay.
And at that point I got really depressed. Like and I started painting. Like I just my sister had a canvas in her garage, and I took it out and I just started painting one day, and I did not stop.
So it was that first painting. Was it like light bulb?
Yeah.
Came on?
Yeah. It was that first painting. I still have it. And I was like, oh, this is really good. And I just it's not even that I felt like I had to do it. Just I felt like I had to do it. It wasn't like I was doing it for anyone else. It was really for myself. I had no intention of trying to sell it or make a career out of this. It was just something I needed to do for my own therapy.
And that's how it should be starting out. It should be completely for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the artists that do the best and that have the biggest appeal or people relate to is because you're not editing yourself and you're being so true to yourself.
Yeah, like the authenticity completely I always
it comes through in your work.
Yeah, and I always talk about Basquiat, and he,
I was going to compare you to a female Basquiat, but I didn't know how you'd take it.
No, I mean it's a huge compliment, but at the same time, everyone wants to be like him, and
I know, but there's a lot of really bad knockoffs.
It is, and it's just funny because I always try to tell people, I'm like, it's not even that he was that great of an artist. The point is, it was his truth completely,
exactly,
and his markings and his
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was completely his own, and that's why it was so good.
I used to watch Basquiat. I had two movies that I would watch at night before I would start painting or writing, and I would pour myself some drinks and I'd sit down. I'd watch Basquiat. I don't know if you've seen the movie, probably have.
Yeah.
And Pollock. Yeah. And both very depressing movies, of course. But for some reason, I loved it. He just ate it up.
It was super inspiring.
I can quote every line in Basquiat, and I do the impersonation. And Bowie as Warhol.
Oh, of course.
Come on.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is about, it's his story. And he just did something so unique. It's funny, too, because I was talking on another podcast about artists kind of developing a marketing skill. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such a negative word for artists. Like, I don't, I'm just an artist. Somebody else will do that for me. I'm not going to sell out. It's like, well, what the fuck do you think Banksy is doing? What do you think Basquiat did? It's a different form of marketing. If you're not getting your work out in front of the public eye, then nobody's going to see it.
Yeah. And that's what, and people always ask me, how do you I'm like, just do it and put it out.
Just put it out. Exactly.
There is no other secret.
Unless you're just doing it for yourself and it's a hobby. That's fine. That's great. But but most artists, why else are you doing it if you don't want your art to be seen?
Right. And if this is something you want to do for the rest of your life, you kind of have to sell.
You kind of have to.
Yeah. There is a balance. And, after I started painting about 4 months later, that's when I met Mike and ShockBoxx. And that's when
Oh, wow. That's serendipitous.
It was really quick. I found him on Instagram, and that's when I was like, I'm going to start submitting. That's it. I'm going to start submitting. And it was for the Addiction Show. Yeah. And I had my work there, and I kind of got confidence from that. And I started, before all of this, I was modeling. for a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a past. It's definitely like
Did
I don't
you know
even
I came
remember
down
this
here
person.
to act too?
No, I was never an actor. Just strictly modeling, and I followed in my sister's footsteps. I really wanted to be like her at the time, and it was such a horrible industry to be in, especially at 17, 18, 19 years old. You're already just have all the self-doubt and insecurities, and then you are like putting yourself in these positions to be completely torn apart.
It's like, oh, you're already insecure and self-conscious? Here, I'm going to pile 800 pounds more of that on your shoulders.
Right. It was awful. I mean, they will tell you your face that, you know, something's wrong with your hair, you're not, your body, this, your one eye is smaller than the other. Like all of
You're just not pretty enough for this one, or
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always had an agency though. That was kind of my, like, I understood that's how I was going to get work. So when I started painting.
By the way, I wasn't saying you're not pretty enough. I was saying in general.
I know.
Everybody who's listening is just like, what an asshole.
What an asshole. When I started painting, that was kind of my first like thought. It was like, I need to get representation. Like it wasn't even like a second guess, like this is what you're supposed to do. So it was natural for me to go try to find galleries to represent me.
That's exactly natural. It's funny when I interviewed Mike, we were talking about you a little bit, and I wanted to qualify something. I said, well, I was like, Sarah's on the fast track, and it came across as like a negative thing, but I meant it as a positive thing because you knew what you wanted,
right? And
you just went for it,
yeah.
And that's the way to get on the fast track. All the stuff that you did before, all of the issues with your childhood, the immigration, all this stuff that's been bubbling up under the surface, the jobs that you hated, I can relate to that. All the trauma, all the modeling, it all led to that point.
Absolutely.
And then when you started painting and the light bulb went on, you're like, all right, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get this shit out there.
Yeah. And this has been the most consistent and, you know, this is the most success I have been in as far as any industry because I finally like got it. This was my thing. And there is nothing else in this world that I'd rather be doing than creating art.
What a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and that's what people are looking for, right? People are looking for purpose. I think that's why you're depressed when you're in a job like that. It's why I was depressed waiting
100%.
tables, and I waited tables for 16, 17 years. And every day was just dread going in there. So yeah, when you can find that thing that you love, that gives you purpose, go for it.
And I always knew there was something I was supposed to be doing. I just wasn't sure what it was. And I've always been like, I hate authority.
Yeah.
And there's been so many jobs, I will just go to my car to go get something and I just never come back.
Right.
There's been so many times I've been completely flat broke and just refuse to like go get a job as like, you know, XYZ because like I knew I was going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And to my detriment. But then when I ended up having a child, you know, you have to kind of realize that you have to feed her.
Yes.
And possibly.
Well, you don't have to.
Right.
But then you're a terrible person.
If you would like to keep the child in your home.
Right.
You know, you have to provide a home and food and all that. So she's definitely she's that piece of me that has grounded me. Like otherwise I could just be floating around and not having any direction. But having a kid will force you to kind of be like, okay, I do have to sell. I do have to market myself. And it's, you know, and there's a balance to that.
Instant motivation.
Yeah. And so I got...
So how old's your daughter?
She's 9. She's 9.
Okay.
Yeah, which is crazy.
See, I'm going to ask a question about this because it's something for me that I've always been inquisitive about, but I think other people listening might be in the same boat. As an artist, that's actually been something that's been a positive for you then, having a child.
Right. It's been positive. It's also really difficult.
Sure.
Because of those reasons, because I am not okay with just having a 9-to-5 for the rest of my life, and I will choose my happiness and my search for my thing over stability at times.
Right.
And it's still hard, you know, but I'm finally at the place where I can be stable and still be an artist, but it's difficult to, you know, especially as an artist, you're in your head a lot. And I love to be alone. I can be alone all the time. I have no problem with my own company. And
I'm the same way.
Yeah. And when you have a kid, you have to be there.
Well, that's part of the reason why I started the podcast really was to create a little bit more of a sense of community.
Right.
Because I have to force myself to talk to people because otherwise I'm here all day. I'm creating, I'm on my computer, I'm in the studio, and I can go a week or two without talking to anybody aside from my wife. I will talk to her when she comes home.
That's nice.
But that's nice sometimes. But yeah, so that was the impetus for starting this, was to have a community and have other artists who might be feeling like they're isolated, so they can listen and feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, you are isolated, and
you are, and some of that's good. Obviously.
It is good because then the isolation is where you grow and because if something's not feeling right in your life and you become isolated because everyone else around you is in a different place, that's when you really find out who you are and what you want and what you need.
I can't remember who said it, but one of the biggest problems with humanity is the inability to be able to sit alone in a room with yourself for an extended period of time. Yeah. So I think we conquer that as artists, and that's where we develop our ideas, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes to our detriment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. And obviously it's good to have balance. And I'm getting from what you're saying, if you're an artist who's already unstable, don't rush out and have a kid.
No. Okay. And I had her when I was 24. So at that time I was really young and stupid. And I wanted to have her. She was not an accident anyway. Like it was planned. But it's funny that if I were not to have a kid right now, and I would still be waiting until, a certain time, because
like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I'm smarter now and I know like what that means as far as being responsible for another human life. The fact that she's 9 and like smart and healthy and happy. I'm just like, wow, I did that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
My wife is she's about your age, and she's getting ready. I don't want to like make her uncomfortable here, but we're getting close. So for me, I'm interested in that, and I always wanted to strike a little bit of balance and have some stability. I was like, you know what? 6 years ago, I couldn't even really take care of myself all the time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not bringing another person into this world.
It's a responsible way of thinking.
Right. But then I think you can also talk yourself out of it. You can keep going, well,
there's never a good time. Right. There's never like a perfect time.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's some people that have it all planned out and then have a baby and then it doesn't, but then
it's not, I mean, you can't plan what it's going to be like after the baby.
Yeah. People get really, crazy about their schedules and their routines. And then if it's like thrown off, then, they're completely like a mess.
Yeah. This wasn't how I planned it.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's definitely, she's definitely been this like anchor for me. And I wrote this piece a few years ago about being a mother, an artist, and living in Los Angeles, which is like the most fucked up trifecta. And it's a struggle. But on the other side of that, like she's being raised by artists and musicians, and she is really cool. Like
she's going to be a badass.
She doesn't think I'm cool.
But isn't that funny?
One day she will.
One day she's going to be like, actually, my mom was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, she does recognize that I am not like other moms. So that's right. And I'm like, do you want me to be like other moms? She's like, no.
No, not at all.
I'm like, okay, good.
She's like, I really wanted you to be a copywriter, Mom.
Yeah. And she loves the fact that I get to work at home and paint, and she gets to draw, and
right.
Yeah. So it's like, I love that. I'm instilling that in her.
Do you think she's going to follow in your footsteps?
She did tell me recently she wants to be a professional artist.
Oh, nice.
But she said she doesn't want to be an abstract painter.
Okay.
She wants to, draw portraits and figures and, like she said, like real art.
Real art. Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
That's what I started out in, real art. And then I was like, screw this real art thing.
Yeah, screw this real art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's awesome to see her kind of, she's like my little mini me. She's starting to dress like me. And
is she going to be at the show?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. I can't wait to meet her.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Mike will be all about giving her a platform to show her work if she's ready at some point.
I'm sure. Yeah. And she's great, actually. Like I've seen, like she draws so well, like almost to the point. And I'm like, well, just like not, you don't be too good.
Wait like 10 years.
Yeah. Can you let me do this first before you like take over?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you're also in Art Space Warehouse, aren't you?
Yeah. And that's when,
amazing.
Yeah, that was 3-4 months.
I've submitted there a couple times.
Yeah. They're,
nothing.
They're
Art Space Warehouse, if you're listening.
I have no idea how this happened. That's when I started submitting my work to every gallery known to man. And at the time I was living in Highland Park, and there's an art community there, and there's lots of galleries there. So that's where I was submitting. I just wanted to show my work. I didn't care where. And I accidentally emailed Art Space Warehouse.
Oh, really?
It was not, like, I didn't know where they were, who they were at that time. It was just like, they were on my list.
The best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, I had no idea.
For some reason, I don't know if you've recognized this in your own life and in art and submissions, but it feels like whenever I want something too much, it's like I block it from happening.
Absolutely.
When I was an actor, whenever I would come in for an audition, I'd be hungover, and I just was like, I shouldn't even be here. I don't want to be here. Yep. And I just did it. And I just was like, couldn't wait to get home, would book it without a callback.
Yep.
Like, he's what we want. He doesn't care,
It's exactly how it happens. I don't know.
How it happens.
And I remember I submitted, and then 2 days later, they emailed me back, and they're like, can you send us a price list? And I'm like, what's a price list? Like, I was that green. Like, I had no idea. Like,
I like how you weren't even like, sure, let me.
Yeah, I had to like Google what is a price list, and
that's how it happens.
Yeah, so I sent them my price list after I put it together, and they're like, "Well, actually, we're looking for large scale abstract. Would you be willing to create some for us?" And I was at that time.
What's large scale abstract?
Yeah, so at the time I was painting my living room. Did not have space for large scale abstract, so before I ever sold any big piece, I rented myself a studio.
Nice.
And for a year lease, and I was just convinced I was going to start selling immediately.
Right.
And like after I create these 5 big pieces for them, that's going to sell in a week, and I'm going to be good. But it took a few months.
You're going to be off and running.
Yeah. And it's scary. I'm like, how am I going to pay this rent when I don't even know if I'm going to be selling anything? But I just, in my head, like it wasn't even an option. And, I finished those pieces. I sent them over to Art Space, and, they didn't sell for a few months, and then all of a sudden they started selling. And I was like, wow.
They're a great avenue for selling work. If you work with their aesthetic, they will sell you.
And it's funny because I was not in their aesthetic at all.
Yeah.
And
maybe you filled a gap.
Yeah, and that's what they kind of like that's kind of what they said, that, is this new kind of artist, and they're, excited to represent me now.
She's kind of like a female Basquiat, and you're going to love her.
And it's funny because I work, it's a mother-daughter business.
Right.
So I worked with the daughter first, and she I'm like trying to be all like politically correct here.
Just do it.
She was, she was less intimidating than the mom.
Yeah.
And so when I was working with her, and she was great. She's like, and she kind of realized I was kind of green, and she told me, like, if you need help, like while you're making these, just send like the progress shots, and I'll let you know like how it's going.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So they helped me a lot through like the first few pieces, and she accepted, but I just, for some reason in my head, I thought like whenever there's like, you find success immediately on something, it's almost like you think it's a fluke. And every single time I would go to drop off more work, I immediately was in my head, I was like, they're going to go and look at it and be like, you know what? We found out you're not a real artist.
Imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
I have that to this day. I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever goes away. I mean, you get better with it, but
yeah,
that is one of the most debilitating things as an artist.
To this day,
you feel like they're going to find out that I'm not a real
they're going to
artist.
find out that like I don't really actually know what I'm doing, and that this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened yet. And it's funny, I dropped off a couple of big pieces a few months ago, and I accidentally stretched the pieces wrong.
Uh-oh.
I had
You're out.
The frames up like backwards.
Oh, nice.
Like just completely like
You're
wrong.
like, I know that. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Okay?
And so at that time, the mom was there.
Uh-oh.
And she was just like looking at me like, this is not right. And I had to rent a U-Haul to get them over there. And I left. I'm like, they're going to like kick me out. This is it. Like, they're going to be like, she is clearly doesn't know what she's doing. And they're like, no. If like they didn't, everyone's like telling me like if they didn't like it, they would have told you right then and there, because you had the U-Haul, you could have just taken them right back. And I was like, you're right, it's fine. And then like 10 minutes after I got home, I got an email. They're like, you need to come back and restretch these.
Yeah.
And so when I went there with my sister. There was no space. We had to go out in the parking lot in the back and with a flashlight because it was nighttime.
Oh my God.
And they kept coming out going, well, this is how you stretch, you know, like trying to give me pointers. And I'm like, I really do know how to stretch.
The cops are coming thinking you're trying to break into the place.
Yeah. And like, this is how you do it. I'm like, I know how to do it. So I just felt really stupid. But it's just, you know, it was definitely like.
But that's the fast track. That's what I'm saying. You learned on the fly.
Yeah, I really did it. Like when there's people that are been doing this for 10 plus years, and then there's me going, I don't deserve to be here. I'm clearly stretching these wrong. And so it's.
But we all hit at different times.
Yeah.
And I think you probably, it was like I was saying earlier, it was the perfect culmination of all these things that you've been through in your life, and you discovered something about yourself that you were obviously putting on canvas. It was resonating with people.
Yeah.
Whereas some people who've been doing it for 10, 15 years haven't discovered their voice yet.
Yeah.
So it's not always like that, but there's no reason to feel bad about any of that stuff.
Right. I mean, they didn't kick me out.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And then in fact, like I'm supposed to be, it's just funny. They emailed me.
You're doing well with them.
Yeah. And they emailed me a few weeks ago and they're like, do you have any horizontal work? And I was like, oh my God, like all of my work is vertical.
Oh, wow.
And then so now I'm been in the process of creating more horizontal work because
I've seen some in the show.
The couch is, there's a few.
Well, and that's another thing, you know, that I think artists have to get used to. When I started, I was very much, I'm doing this for the purity of art.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, fuck you. I'm just doing this for myself. I'm not putting and I'm not doing this to match a couch or whatever. But people are going to buy your work.
And there's that, and that's that balance. I think because it started for me so early in my career that I immediately had to think about, like when I first started, you know, with Art Space, they told me like, we like blues because blue sells. So incorporate more blues in your work.
That's true.
And I hated that. I hated that somebody was telling me what colors to work with, but you kind of have to have like in the back of your head, will somebody like this in their home? Especially
if you're paying your rent or your mortgage with it. Yeah. And you can still be creative within those constraints.
Yeah. And now I don't care. Like it's funny. I was talking to somebody, there's this interview I did with Leah for Asymmetric magazine. And
Leah's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. And I was telling her how people were telling me green is a terrible color to paint with. So I started like painting with more green. I couldn't help it. Yeah. And now a bunch of my work is green, especially for the show. And I can't help it. It's like that authority against it, my rebel side. And now even with Art Space, I don't even give them anything with blue anymore. And they just keep taking it. So I guess it works.
You paid your dues with them.
Yeah. And it's just funny with like,
well, that's the thing too. You've probably established that you sell with them.
Right. And I think they're like, okay, like clearly someone's liking it. So we're going to let her kind of go wild with it. Right. And it's cool because a lot of the artists there have one particular style and they continue, like they're like only do this style over and over again. And with me, like none of my paintings look the same twice. So it's awesome that they're letting me kind of be me. And, it's like I was saying with Art Space, they're an amazing, they have the best connections. Like my stuff is rented constantly and for TV and film. And,
yeah, that's right. I forgot they did that too.
Yeah. But it's on the other side of that, like compared to ShockBoxx, I have a personal relationship with ShockBoxx and with Mike, and I can like call anytime I want and text anytime I want. And
ShockBoxx is like family.
It is like family. And with Art Space, like I'll sell 4 or 5 paintings.
Non-judgmental family.
Yeah, not judgmental at all. But I'll sell paintings at Art Space and nobody will tell me. Like I'll go online every couple of days. Oh. Like on the actual website to see if something is marked sold.
Oh, wow.
That's how I find out.
Really? They don't send you an email update?
No, I don't know if it's like I'm just not. I don't know. I have no idea.
But I'm assuming they pay you.
Yeah, the accounting is good on their part.
Okay,
like the accountants are good. They send me the check. So like sometimes that's how I find out I sold something. Is I just get a check in the mail.
Oh wow!
So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Well, that's kind of a bonus, but yeah, it'd be nice to know.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know. So there is like that difference of galleries and of relationships.
Oh my god, so many different things. I had periods where I just took a break with galleries. I was like, you know what? I started when I first started out around 2003. I just got in a bunch of gallery shows. I was like, I've made it, and then I wasn't selling that much, and I just got tired of doing it. So I took a big break, and I just started working on myself and working on my online. So once online became viable, Yeah, but it took a long, and I'm happy I did that because it was like the body of work. I built a body of work. I kind of figured out myself. I learned that I had to kind of come out of my shell a little bit and not be the hermit all the time and learn how to, market a bit. But yeah, once you make that transition and once you know what you want, you can definitely make a living as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. You're Everyone's always shocked that like people can make a living as an artist. I'm like, you can do it. It's not
definitely.
You just have to like really know what you want.
And it's not, and I talked about this in another podcast, but there's all these people who feel like there's one route you have to go. You have to find your route, and what works for you, what works for you is not going to work for me.
Exactly.
But you can take little tips and, tricks from other people that you've seen and apply them to what you're doing. And if they work, great. If they don't, try something else.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like for you, like you're killing it on Saatchi. Whereas me, I got in a fight with one of the Saatchi people and I don't want
I was killing it on Saatchi.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Saatchi under the bus here. Yeah. I sell best with Artfinder and I'm selling well with Singular now, but I was selling well with Saatchi too. And then all of a sudden I couldn't log into my account, like 3 months.
Oh my God.
And I was on and I was
a long time.
It's a long time. And then you kind of fall off with the algorithm,
Yeah.
So I was on with this woman. She was great. She was trying to help me out. She was wonderful. So they helped me out, but they couldn't figure out the problem. And they said it was like, I was the only artist this was happening to. Of course. Right. And then finally, when they got it back up and running about 3 months later, I just jumped back in. I was putting up a lot of the work that I missed and I haven't been able to sell since.
Yeah. Because once you get out of the algorithm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to build back up with that. But luckily I sell in other places. Right. But if that's another thing to remember too. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened with me. I have, my galleries here in LA, but then I have a gallery in Tel Aviv.
Oh, nice.
And
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's Mika Gallery, and the girl that works there, she's my contact. She's not the gallery owner, but she's the one she works there. And she came from Russia when she was 3.
Oh, wow.
But to Israel.
Okay.
So she basically what my life would have been if, we would have gone to Israel. Right. And she completely connected with my work on that level. Like
awesome.
She tells me, she's like, there's marks that like, that looks like, my dad's blanket on the couch.
So she completely gets you.
Yeah. And so it's a completely different, she can sell my work in that way where I am like a Jewish woman and a Russian Jewish woman, and she connects with that. So she loves to tell my story to people, and I've been able to sell there too. And they want me to come there to create a show, but it's going to take me a minute to get over there.
But that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's
the dream is being able to travel the world and show your work.
Yeah.
Eventually we all will be, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, if you don't mind, what it's like being a woman in the art world and the LA art world. But do you mind if we take a quick break?
Sure.
Awesome. We're going to take a quick break. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we are back with Sarah Svetlana, superstar of the art world. So, but you are. Come on. I was going to ask you your Sarah Svetlana origin story, your superhero, but you already gave it to me, which is great.
Right off the bat.
So we have the origin story. It's funny, I have all these notes here, and I haven't had to use any of them. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I'm going to cheat now and I'm going to use one of them. So we've talked about your upbringing, some of your experience in the art world, ShockBoxx, Art Space Warehouse, being a mother. What about being a woman in the art world? Has that been something that you even really noticed? I know you've noticed being a woman,
right?
A difference between the female experience in the art world and the male experience.
Well, I can't speak for the male experience, of course.
Right.
But
I can't either.
Yeah, I have. I've never been a victim. Like I've never been in that mentality. So I've always been able to get what I want if I want it. So the only thing that I have struggled with is posting pictures of myself alongside with my art,
Mm-hmm.
and almost being too aware, am I too sexy? Am I too pretty in this photo? Because I want to be taken seriously. And it sucks that I have to think about that. But there was like a time where, all my photos were modeling photos, and I would get attention, male attention. And, some of it was very negative, and some of it was in any way, I didn't really love it.
Internet.
Right. It's the internet. So when I want to be taken seriously as an artist, I have to be hyper aware that I don't want to come off as, I want people to see my art and not, oh, she's trying to, look hot next to her photos or next to her paintings.
That's interesting. Do you think that has been heightened by your modeling experience?
Probably.
Or if would you have had that regardless?
I think it has been heightened because of it. I definitely, I'm more aware of it, and I don't particularly like when I post a picture of just myself in the shot with my art, and people are like, "Oh, you're so pretty," and it's nice.
You're like, look at the fucking art,
right? And like, I don't want it, and I don't. So I try not to. Like, I don't post a lot of pictures of myself anymore, and I don't because and it sucks that I have to kind of pick and choose of. Do I want to be like a pretty girl or taken seriously as an artist?
Like you can't have both.
And I don't know, like that's kind of like, can I have, like, I don't know if I can.
That's really interesting because there are a lot of people, now that I'm thinking about it and filing back over millions of pictures that I've looked at, there are a lot of men and women, but since we're talking about women, I've seen a lot of women who play that up.
Yeah.
A lot.
They do.
Almost to the point of being semi-pornographic.
Exactly.
Or just, posed.
Yeah. And I was guilty of that for sure.
Though. I mean, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, there isn't. And like, I love taking photos. Like that was, I hated the industry, but I loved being in front of the camera for a long time. I loved the final result of a beautiful photograph. And I don't ever want, and it's such a silly thing to complain about. Like, I hate, it sucks being so pretty, like it's just, it's stupid. And but at the same time,
no, but it's a concern.
It is. And I see, like, I'll see other women who are gorgeous girls and they will play up their sexuality in front of their work, and you no longer see their work.
That's very true. Because how many of these guys, like I'm different. I like to think of myself as being different. I'm looking at the art too, but how many of these guys on Instagram are actually even seeing past them to the art now? Yeah.
And there's a lot of times there's been a lot of artists I've reached out, like I've talked to throughout the years since I've been on Instagram, who are, I look up to, and they're amazing artists. And I thought they were talking to me because of my work. Turns out they just want to hit on me, and that sucks.
Yes.
So it's like, you don't know, whose intentions are, pure
and real. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've had that experience myself. I've had it with women, and I've also had it with gay men. Like I had an experience where
you're a pretty man.
Well, that's why I wear bikinis in my shots. No, but I went to an opening of an artist that I admired, and he knew me from social media, which was cool. And he was talking to one of his collectors, and he kind of said, "Oh, you should check out Preston's work," which I thought was also very cool. And the guy was chatting me up all night, and we were talking, and I was like, oh, this is another avenue. This guy's going to get my work out there. And then the moment I told him I was married, he just fell off the face of the earth.
Just like made a complete 180.
Used.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure that happens even more with women.
Yeah. There was a particular, I'm not going to say his name, but really looked up to him. This is a while back, and he messaged me. He's like, great work. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, if you ever want to send me any nudes to inspire me.
Hello.
And he didn't even he was an abstract painter. There was no figure.
He wasn't a photographer or anything?
No, he was just a painter. There was no naked ladies in his work in any way. And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's so bizarre.
And like, I never responded to that, but it was off-putting, and it was upsetting because, I'm like, I'm not going to send you nudes,
right.
Sir.
So I'm assuming he thought that you would think that he would maybe further your career in some way.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, well, she clearly thinks I'm awesome, so she's going to like give me these. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. And then there's been times
it's like the casting couch, but in the art world.
Exactly. And then there'd be times where people want to set up a studio visit, and turns out it wasn't for my art, and like those are the things that's the biggest obstacle as far as for me being a woman in the industry. But
that really sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to know that intentions are pure when you're showing your work to somebody, especially a potential collector.
And it's funny because like when I switched over from the modeling industry, because I'm used to creepy photographers, like I can call one out in the first sentence of their email if they're legit or if they're not, you know. But when I came into the art world, I was naive thinking that, oh, this isn't the same thing. Like these people were artists and they're not going to be creepy men, but there are. Men, turns out.
Yeah. Men in the art world are just completely, they're different. They're different.
They're a different level of creepy.
Yeah, different species.
Yeah, they're just like more, like they're slightly more autistic and still creepy.
Right.
You know,
oh, man, that's weird. I hadn't thought of it from that angle. That would be,
I mean,
that would be upsetting for me. Well, I know I try to. That's why I was asking the question, but I think that's good for guys to think about that. Also, all you collectors out there, don't be creepy.
Don't be
Please.
creepy.
If you like a woman's work, just like her work. You know. Okay. Well, that's good to know. We talked about the show a lot at the beginning. I wanted to get that out at the beginning because you never know if people snooze after a while.
Right.
But I asked Mike the same question, and I don't know. I'm interested. What was one of your biggest failures when you were getting your work out there? I mean, I know we talked about the stretching canvas thing, but like something you really wanted. And what you learned from it.
I mean, failures. There's actually one of the most recent ones where I got contacted by a woman to do a commission. She gave me no direction. She said, I like this particular piece of yours, but I don't want it to be the same. I just like the colors and kind of the feeling. I said, cool. I didn't reach out to her. She reached out to me. Painted a painting. And she's like, I don't like it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh God, like I've never had that happen, especially when you're reaching out to me.
Right.
Like, I didn't look for you.
That should be a safe place.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm horrified. I'll redo it. Like, you know, like I'll just recreate the piece that you really like, but she wanted it to be vertical instead of like the one piece that was horizontal. She wanted a vertical piece. So
I just stick to vertical.
And I recreated it, same exact colors, everything. Just, I mean, it's a little bit different, but like side by side, they're the same feeling. They're actually going to be in the show.
Oh, nice.
And
then she's going to come in and buy them.
Right. No, actually Dennis Dugan bought that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I sent it to her and she's like, I don't know. My husband's having a hard time with the colors. I was like, they're literally the same colors as the other painting. And I got really upset because, you know, for obvious reasons. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. And I told her, I was like, I didn't have to redo the second piece. I usually take half up front, but for this woman, because she was so excited about my work,
I don't need to do that.
I only took like 10 or 20% up front just for supplies.
Yes.
And so I told her, I was like, I don't normally do that. And I thought, you know, especially after the second one, like these are literally the same colors that you requested as the other painting that you love. And then she's like, I understand you're upset. Well, if you can't, you know, find a buyer, we'll buy it. And I was like, I never responded to her. I was like, no, so it can just like, I don't want it to go just to your pity buy.
Right. Stop wasting my time.
Yeah. So there was like definitely, but then I realized like I like the painting. So I don't really care. Like it hurt, obviously. No one wants to be rejected, especially when they're seeking a painting from you and you don't deliver. It feels awful that you let somebody down.
Well, and art has another level of vulnerability too.
Absolutely.
You're exposing part of yourself.
Yeah. And when you're content, you kind of see the kind of artist I am. I'm not a cookie cutter. I don't just create one thing over and over again. They're all different. It's chaotic and at times. And so it was just, it was difficult to like be able to put yourself out there, not once, but twice and be rejected by the same lady. And the painting actually is called, I Used to Be a Commission.
Nice. So, there you go.
Yeah. So it ended up working out great. And then, you know, and at the end it was great. But I don't think, I think because I modeled for so long and the rejection for so long, I've developed a thicker skin where if I was able to put myself out there just based on my physical looks, art is just another extension of that. So I've been able to not take rejection as badly as if I would have just never had the experience prior to that.
I'm the same way. Being an actor starting out, it's like you develop a thick skin.
Yeah, you have to.
And you need to have a thick skin.
You have to. And that's with any industry where you're putting yourself out there, where you have to be vulnerable to succeed, because you can't put up walls and expect to be an artist, a successful artist, because the vulnerability is what you're selling, is your authentic, true voice.
It is.
So even after like the rejections and, from that woman and from, just different galleries, like I had this gallery in Australia, not my gallery, but one of my favorites, TW, it doesn't matter. There's a gallery in Australia. I love it. It has like everybody, like I feel like I fit in there.
Yeah.
And I emailed them. This was like a year and a half ago. So granted, it was still I was pretty new, and I don't think I was at the level I am now, but they emailed me back and they're like not they didn't have to just not respond, but they emailed me back and told me that I'm not good enough for the roster. Like you didn't have to respond at all.
Right.
That was just like a dick move.
It is a dick move.
Yeah.
This is good though. See, because this is what I want people to hear. I had this too. When I used to start out, I would like pound the pavement. The Gallery Row on Culver City now that's south of Venice.
Yeah.
I just would go into there from time to time. And, I'm sure from their standpoint, it's like, look, we're showing the best artists from around the world.
No.
But we're the future best artists from around the world, right? So you need to be open to that. I would walk in and I remember I would get these interns. And one time the interns took my work and I was like, I was just wondering if you, looked in, because it takes a lot of guts.
Oh my God.
To just walk in there as an artist
too
and bring your portfolio in there and be like, hi, take a look at me. And I said, are you looking at emergent artists? And they're like, no. And then I said, oh, okay, thanks. And I walked, and as I turned to walk out, I heard them laughing.
Oh my God.
It's like, what the fuck? This is somebody obviously who's not happy, right? And they probably are unfulfilled in their own lives.
And it feels so good to reject.
So good in the moment, but actually it's making them feel worse, right?
Of course, yeah.
But then another one on the same street, it was fine. He looked at my portfolio. This was back when I did a lot of figurative work and pop surrealism. And his thing was, he's looking through work. He's like, oh, interesting. Oh, he's like, are you, so you're self-taught? And I was like, well, no. First of all, I went to school everybody I believe is self-taught as an artist.
Yeah.
Even if you go to school, there's an element of it that is self-taught because they can't paint the fucking picture for you, right? But I just so happened to not be self-taught. And it was like, what a weird thing to say. It was kind of like a little condescending.
Like clearly you're self-taught. Never been in a class in your life.
Yeah. Fuck you, man. So those things are always great to hear for other artists who are trying to get out there
and it's because I got the ShockBoxx and Art Space so quickly. I didn't know like what to expect from other galleries.
Right.
It was almost like I did it backwards. This is how it is. Yeah, like I just get signed by everybody. And so
what's everybody complaining about?
Yeah, like this is easy. So when I started getting, and I get, I still submit to galleries, and not just to group shows, but for representation because, I feel like every market's different and you should stick your stuff in, especially if that's kind of like your path of being with galleries. I think you should submit as many places as possible.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like castings. When I was modeling, I would get one reply out of, 25, 30.
Because it's a numbers game.
It is.
I think, would you agree that assuming there's a certain level of talent,
right?
A certain level, you don't have to be the most amazing artist in the world. At that point, it's about how fearless you are.
Yes.
And how many times you get yourself out there.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are artists way better than me out there, of course, and they just won't put them, they're too afraid to go.
Or let's say different,
sure. And they just don't want to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And it's just too scary for them. And then that's it. They won't succeed.
And it's like, and that's tragic, but also if you are that artist and you're complaining about it, you've got no reason to complain. It's like the people who don't vote and then complain about who we have in office. It's like, well, you've foregone that ability to be able to complain.
Yeah.
So, and this is speaking from experience. I did 10 years where I was a delicate little, artist, and they'll find me.
Yeah,
they'll
discover banging on my door. Yeah.
It's like, how do they even know who the fuck you are? So get yourself out there.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Another one that I asked Mike that I'm going to ask you is, what's a little secret weapon you have? And by secret weapon, I mean best practice, something that you do that actually keeps you going and on point with your creativity and your level of creativity.
I think working every day, even if it's not like you're not working just on like a particular piece, but just putting paint to canvas every day or even
Definitely.
just sketching. I don't believe that I'm going to sit there and wait for inspiration to hit, because then we could just be sitting here all day and like, oh, I'm not inspired yet. But I just always want to create. And even if I'm not feeling like I should do something, you know, like I don't want to work on a particular piece today, but I'm just going to experiment today.
Yeah.
And I think like experimenting really like is what keeps me inspired, and not following any rules. Like I don't know any rules. Like I am legitimately self-taught. Like like I took art classes here and there, but it was never an actual degree or anything like that.
Right.
So I think that has helped me in a way, because I don't know any rules, I can break them. But
It's
then
almost an advantage.
Yeah.
Because you have
And
to
then like
unlearn
as
all that
I've
shit.
learned way more just being hands-on throughout the last couple of years than I ever would have in school, because I'm just not a classroom person.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me. I have my ADHD. I don't pay attention. And I just like, I have to be hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned, so much like the technical things that you normally would learn in school. But because I never, like apparently there's rules about colors that you like shouldn't do and should do, and, kind of things together, and like, screw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I completely agree.
Yeah. So experimenting has always been really, that's what keeps me inspired for sure. Yeah. And I always, my process is a lot of staring, just kind of drifting off into space and staring and thinking, and then going on the canvas. So, yeah, and just not having any rules, and just being able to kind of be free and not giving a shit. But then, at the end of the day, still having in the back of your head, will this look good in someone's house?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to care on some level,
A
right?
little bit, yeah.
So that's interesting. That's another thing I talked about in one of the podcasts before the interview. You nailed it. It's not about waiting for inspiration to strike.
Yeah.
Inspiration becomes almost a trick. You are inspired sometimes.
Yeah.
How many times have you sat down to create and then halfway through inspiration comes?
Definitely.
But it's because you physically sat down to do it.
Even if it's just like painting, okay, I'm just going to paint the underpainting right now.
Right.
And then as soon as I'm done with the underpainting, I'm like I want to add this mark, and I kind of see it on the canvas already.
Sometimes it's the physicality of just getting the motion going.
Exactly.
And then it triggers something in your brain. Yeah, that's something that just needs to be cultivated. It's like a muscle. The more you do it, I think the better you become at almost manufacturing.
Exactly. Now it's like it's a
inspiration.
part of my daily life.
Yeah.
Like I can't. That's just it's my job, and it's also what I do. It's just I can't not create throughout the day. And it's just funny when, like you were saying, like artists who complain about not being found or don't have gallery representation, like they'll create one piece every 6 months. Like, where are you going with this? Like, there's no way, no one's going to take your one piece. You need to create a body of work.
Yes.
And
what are you, me?
Yeah.
Like I'm talking to myself here.
And because I was signed so quickly, I never had a chance to have a body of work. So I was kind of creating for the gallery at the time. And so this show has been like that opportunity to create an entire body of work.
Well, you're the exception to the rule, because I'm always preaching about developing a body of work, but at the same time, in a weird way, it forced you to create a body of work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it put some constraints on you to do it well.
Yeah.
And you did it well, and you rose to the occasion.
Yeah,
So
I didn't
great.
want to just half-ass it. I wanted to make sure that what I created for this particular show was going to be something I loved, and it was real and authentic, and that all the pieces were cohesive, and I've never been able to do that before, like to this degree. So it was not only like as a show awesome because it's like a solo show, but I've learned so much from it. Just being able to like, I kind of figured out my process even more, because I used to like skip steps. I used to just want to finish the painting. Like I know what it wanted to look like, but then I would just skip the steps because my work has so many layers in it. It becomes daunting because that this whatever mark you just put on, that's not going to be there in 5 minutes.
Like, what does it even matter?
You can't commit to that. Like, and that's what that taught me, like, is not to become so attached to, certain marks or certain pieces because you're probably going to paint over it.
Definitely. I had a question that I really wanted to ask you, and my phone is not opening it. This is what you get for writing something on your phone.
It doesn't want you to ask me.
It's like, don't do it. We've kind of covered it a little bit, but how has where you've created affected your creation? For example, we talked about constraints a little bit. For me, I started out doing a lot of stuff in like a studio apartment. I would paint my kitchen, and I'd have to like build up my studio each time. And that's a pain in the ass, but it also forced me to make everything count that I did. What has your situation been like, and how has that helped you to kind of develop your voice?
Actually, it's a great question because it completely, where I create absolutely affects my work. When I first started, I was in my living room in my apartment, and I was only able to create little small works. Plus, it was like my first, go at really painting. And then when I moved into my studio, I had no windows. It was an awesome space, but I didn't see any light.
It's a cave.
It was a cave, and I had big, tall white walls, so that really helped. And I had lots of lights in there, but I didn't see any nature. I didn't see anything. I was able to create larger pieces because I had more space. But now I didn't realize how much the geography affects my work until I moved into my space now in Pasadena. And it's a garage in the back, but I have my backyard is full of flowers and trees and hummingbirds and butterflies. And it absolutely it shows in my work. The colors have changed. They're brighter. There's even when I paint, it's usually I start on the ground. And so I love to pick up the texture from where I am. Like when I was in Joshua Tree, I used some of the sand and I mixed it in with my paint. So, because of my beginning and I have to all my pieces are a part of the topography of the, whatever it is. And I love, it's almost like a footprint of where I was and where I am at that time. Not only in my head space.
Almost like a time capsule.
Exactly. Not only just in my head, but actually physically where I am.
That's really cool. So not only are they buying part of you, but they're buying actually what was going on physically in that moment.
Exactly. Too. And that's when I created that giant piece at ShockBoxx, it was definitely ShockBoxx. The energy was in that piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny. It reminded me of this guy I heard about who was he was an astronaut, and he'd been one of the few people who'd been to the moon and had scooped up some
moon sand.
Moon sand. Exactly. Thank you. He then became a painter, and he would sprinkle a little bit of moon sand in every piece.
Yeah.
And then he would sell them for $20,000, $30,000. But people were the paintings were good.
Yeah.
But people were I'm buying a part of the moon.
Exactly.
And that's a real little, it's not, I wouldn't say gimmick, but it was something that was very unique to his work that you couldn't buy anywhere else.
Absolutely. That's why I loved using, mixed media as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll just literally just reach for anything that's next to me, reaching distance, and just use that.
Yes.
And not just only because of the different textures and everything, but because that's where it was. And I want, and at times, I sometimes paint better with my one eye closed or even not really looking, kind of almost completely just squinting and having a little bit of vision of where I am, because then it's actual authentic marks. It has to be organic.
Right.
I can't, you can't just if I want to have a square, it can't just be a perfect square. It needs to be
yourself to be too precise.
Exactly. I hate perfection. I like it. I like imperfection. I love when it kind of leaks and it bleeds onto a different shape. And so when my eyes are closed, I do. And it's funny when I draw better with my eyes closed, faces, I used to draw with charcoal all the time. And I end up when it's done in the dark, just by one candle, I end up doing a lot better because I'm just feeling it.
Yeah.
And once my brain gets involved, then it sucks.
You're shutting off the inner critic.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend one time, and we were talking about how I think I believe this. Some people push back on this, but I believe that the more you can shut off your inner voice, and the more you can stop thinking about what it's going to become or who it's going to become for, and you just get as much in the moment. It almost seems like you're forcing yourself to get into that kind of a environment where you're just it's just spontaneous
and
and
just goes through you.
Present creation. Like sometimes, I don't know if you've had this experience, but where you've created a piece, one of your best pieces, I have stuff that I look at and I'm like, I don't even remember creating this.
Yeah.
It's almost like it just went through you.
Exactly. Like I feel like a tool.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
But like I'm just like
you gave me the
like
chills.
Yeah.
That's the thing with most creators that I think that are doing really good work. They all agree on that. Even like pianists who are amazing, like they talk about themselves almost being an instrument that it's going through, not them
I'm just
doing
like a paintbrush. I'm definitely, it's not me creating it. It's like I'm feeling the energy around me. The universe is going right through me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
I completely agree.
And as soon as you start thinking about it, and like it has to look like this, it has to, this is for like that's when it all goes wrong.
Yep. It's the same reason why I can't listen to, I was in a band back in the day and we'd have a guy who was a music theory expert and he would never write a song because he was scrutinizing every little detail. And then if he would manage to get something that was coherent, it just felt lifeless. Yeah. Because there was nothing, there was no emotion coming in, there was no energy coming through it. Yeah. So that's really cool to hear. Do you have any advice for younger Sarah? Oh, maybe let's take it back further. Let's take it back to like modeling Sarah.
Oh man, I always want to give her a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a very sad girl. There was a pivotal point where I talked to my younger self. It was about 5 years ago, and my mom, a little more than 5 years ago, my mom just passed away, and then 6 months later had a whole nervous breakdown. It was awful because like when you're in survival mode, you don't have time to feel things. Like you're just pushing through. So at that time, there was, I finally felt everything come up, and it was awful. And I had to go through, like I started my healing process, and I very consciously, with intention, I wanted to heal. And so I did some acid, and
there you
go. It was a very amazing experience. I remember I was meditating and I saw myself laying there. Like I remember moving
like an out of body experience.
Yeah. And I remember moving my leg. Like I twitched my leg to see if it was actually me, and I saw myself move my leg.
Oh, wow.
And I remember looking down at this person, and I just felt so much love and compassion for her. And I just wanted to give her like this hug and tell her everything is okay, and that everything, and it's so funny, when I was younger, I was like 14, 15, I almost like had this like premonition that I was going to go through really difficult things because I had to. Yeah. It was a part of my journey, and that I didn't know why I thought that. Like I always took the harder route. Like when there was like a fork in the road, I always go the other way just to make my life more difficult for some reason. And I could never figure out why. And then now looking back at my 20s and my late teens, it's because it made me who I am today. Like I came to this earth to like that's like what I chose, to have this difficult journey, so I could be the creator I am today.
Nobody can see, but I'm nodding and smiling because I feel like you're me talking. It's crazy. I felt like, when you meet people, like if you feel a connection, like I felt a connection with you when we were going to the Getty that one time when we were talking. I was like, here's somebody who, I don't know what it was, but we aligned in certain ways. Yeah. I had that same thing when I went through a really depressive, dark period, and I had a lot of demons. And one of the few ways I was able to actually get out of it was I just decided to like look at my 5-year-old self and just treat myself as a delicate little boy. And I had so much compassion too. And that was the building place. That was like the building blocks of healing and coming to terms and then quitting all these bad behaviors that I developed over the years. They were coping mechanisms that just weren't sustainable anymore.
And we're taught to have compassion for other people and to, not judge and to forgive. And we forget that we need that for ourselves first.
How can you be compassionate toward anybody else if you can't be compassionate to yourself?
Exactly. And I finally, that first step was I finally felt love towards that person. And it's so like you kind of weird to say like I finally love myself, and it's just like you don't want to talk.
No,
but
it's beautiful.
True.
Yeah,
you need that, and that's when everything kind of started falling into place.
Of course.
Yeah, and it's So like it's exactly like my sister. She's going through a life change right now, and she had a completely different upbringing. She's 7 years older than me, and she came to this country when she was 12, and it was awful for her. Like she was
a
bullied
little more aware.
relentlessly. Yeah. And like, I started kindergarten, so at least I was able to be with, I was little, so nobody was picking on me at that point, but she skipped 5th grade, went from 4th grade to 6th grade to middle school.
Oh man.
And she was just picked on relentlessly. And now she's kind of having to deal with this, and she's, and I tell her that little girl inside of you needs you to like love her and to find compassion for her and to give her like what you didn't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hardest thing, because you almost want to rebel against that and be like, these people didn't give this to me. Exactly. Kids can be so cruel too,
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. We've talked about so much more than I thought we were going to talk about, and that's great. And that's amazing. I feel like there is one thing that I wanted to ask you. Well, oh no, I think we talked about that. Never mind. I think that's a good place to stop, unless you feel like you have anything you wanted to add.
No, I just want to thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
And before we go, tell people where they can find you. I know you talked about Artsy, but social media,
Instagram
all that stuff.
is a really good place to find me. My Instagram handle is Sveta is my name. SVETA is my name. Yeah. It's funny because I have Mike in the back of my head right now going, you say like and way too much. So
that's what podcasts are great.
Damn it, Mike.
I edit this thing and you have no idea how much I fucking hate my voice after I do it, because I find all these little things that I do too. And I'm forcing myself to not, because I engage with people a lot when they're talking.
Yeah.
I force myself to stop doing that. And I know it's still
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So that's part of being human.
Okay.
But if you want, I can try to clean it up.
No, it's okay. This is me. It's who I am.
From me, I notice those things. I notice those things in other people, and it hasn't bothered me. So I think you're coming across very good.
Cool.
But Mike, get out of our fucking heads, man.
I know, always in there.
Okay, well, check out Sarah's show opening this weekend, the 7th, March 7th?
the 7th at ShockBoxx.
From 6 to 9 p.m.?
Correct, yes.
And if not, through March 25th.
Correct.
And then if not, and you're a future person looking back, check out Sarah's work. You won't be disappointed.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Awesome. This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.